Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Live Well with Coach P. And today's episode is very different. Today we're looking at mental health because this channel is all about holistic wellness. It's not just about what you're physically eating, but what's mentally eating you, helps your spiritual health, your relationship with God. And today we are talking to Dr. Nicole, a very good friend of mine. She's a psychologist. So today we're going to look at overcoming burnout, guys, and how to reclaim your life. But before I get started, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Dr. Nicole. So, Dr. Nicole Lynch is a counseling psychologist, certified positive discipline educator, and life coach. She has a passion for supporting mental and emotional wellness in children and adults through workshops, support groups, and counseling. She is grateful for God's amazing grace and is loved and endured forever. She's also the founder of SOAR Consulting, seeing ourselves as we really are. Dr. Nicole, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Despite the heat in Barbados, I am good. I'm good.
It's all grace.
All right. Exactly. So let's talk about this whole topic of burnout. What exactly is burnout?
Yeah, and so important, I think, for us to have these conversations. So thank you for having me here to, dialogue around this topic. I think coming out of COVID, it's something that many people have experienced during or perhaps after. It was around before, but I think something about that period of prolonged stress
Right.
certainly created the conditions for burnout to definitely become a part of many people's reality. So what is burnout? It's a state. And I want us to really absorb that word state. So it's like a way of being, state of emotional, mental, physical exhaustion. You're tired.
Mhm.
And the kind of tired that feels exhausting, unable to shake, despite the fact that perhaps you're getting sleep. There's still this exhaustion. And this state is brought on by a prolonged period of stress that has not been well managed.
Okay.
So the trigger is a stressful period that's been going on for a long time that hasn't been well managed.
All right. So what are some of the symptoms? Because I may be dealing with burnout and don't even know. Our viewers could be dealing with burnout and don't even know. And then there's some people who do know because they've probably been
Yes,
living this lifestyle. But what are some
yes.
of the symptoms of burnout?
Yeah, awareness is really powerful. So when it comes to burnout, it's important to understand, initially when people spoke of burnout, they referred to it in the work context, but what
Mhm.
we're realizing is that burnout can happen, in your parenting. Actually, the US Surgeon General just released some research citing parental stress as a major public health concern.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, yes, yeah. So, we can have it in our work life, but also in our parenting life, in our relationship life, and also caretaking. We know now that
That's a big
many,
one.
yes, caretaking and sometimes caretaking for your children while also caretaking for your parents. So
Yeah.
they're now calling, this the sandwich generation. You're kind of between your younger kids and your older parents, and you're caregiving for both. So symptoms. I just wanted us to recognize that this is not just a work thing we're talking about. This
Mhm.
really is a life thing. And the symptoms, I think we tend to characterize burnout along three dimensions, and we usually see the symptoms within those three dimensions. So let's look at the first dimension. The first dimension where you will experience some symptoms, persons experiencing burnout will have symptoms, will be that dimension of exhaustion.
Mhm.
This feeling of totally depleted on energy, it feels unshakable, and maybe I am sleeping but not sleeping well, I'm waking up, I'm restless, or maybe I'm sleeping a lot and still waking up, I'm feeling like what did I just do? I feel just as tired as I did when I went to sleep at first. And what we also see coming out of this dimension is problems concentrating, brain fog. You get up, you go somewhere to do something, and you're like, okay, what did I come here to do again? Why am I standing in the kitchen? What was it I came here for?
Right.
Problems doing what we call those executive functions like planning and organizing. Those things can become very, very difficult, as well as coming out of the exhaustion from the role. Persons may begin to feel a bit resentful, irritable,
Mm.
or they may come across as anxious or even depressed. So those are some of the first dimension, which is that dimension of exhaustion and the things that kind of tag along with exhaustion. So
Right.
of those days when you're feeling, when many of us are feeling tired, take care of self so I can then go and care for others. So first dimension, exhaustion. Second dimension of burnout, where you find symptoms, is what we call depersonalization. And this is just a sense of, psychological disconnect with the world. I just kind of want to sit here on my phone and just scroll, let them play, let them do whatever it is they want to do beyond the tablet because I'm tired and I just can't with this relationship right now. It's the sense of I need to kind of come away to me to protect me from the overwhelm that
Right.
is, parenting right now or doing the job right now. Persons, who are experiencing this may come across sometimes as dissatisfied or kind of cynical, um, like what difference does it make? It won't change, the sense of whatever. I just can't be bothered. We're not saying any of this through the lens of judgment, but through the lens of like awareness around these things. Because then if we realize that we are like checking the boxes, it's a sign for us to seek refuge, seek
Yeah.
help, and to begin to put some things in place to recharge and reroute. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for that second one, that second dimension, I like to ask persons the question, when's the last time you felt joy?
Yeah,
When
that's
is
a
the
good
last
one.
time you kind of felt, yeah, fully alive, like there's something you were doing or seeing or being a part of that, lit your fire, that just lit a fire within you. If you're having a hard time kind of finding that, maybe spend some time kind of unpacking that to see, And the third dimension is that sense of reduced personal accomplishment. Like I'm just not meeting my goals. I am not doing as well as I feel like I've done before as a parent or as a worker. It's this sense of I've put in the work, but I don't feel like I am seeing the results. And so coming along with all of this, sometimes there are also physical symptoms, maybe
Mm.
heart's racing, gastrointestinal issues, the diarrhea, the constipation,
Wow.
just the unbalanced
All that from burnout.
gastrointestinal. Yes, yes,
Wow.
because our body, our mind, and our spirit, they're all interrelated,
Yes.
and the great imbalance that comes about as a result of how we're thinking and how we're feeling with burnout can certainly then contribute to physical symptoms. So what the research is telling us is that for persons who, have burnout, their instance of having hypertension, diabetes, and chronic absenteeism, they're much increased over those persons who have not or who are not. So we're
Wow.
definitely seeing that. Yeah.
Wow. So this is serious, guys. This is something serious that we need to, not allow to consume us because my second question is, well, how does this affect our personal relationships? How does this affect our
Oh,
love? How does this affect our mental health? How does this affect it? Because I know it does, but how does it exactly?
how does it affect our mental health?
Hmm.
All right. So mental health is, a state of well-being. Um, and it's about how we're thinking, it's about how we're feeling, and it's about, you know, as a result of how we're thinking, we're feeling, how we're acting. So when we're in that state of exhaustion, that's one of the characteristics of burnout. Um, we know from the third dimension, there's this sense sometimes of defeat. I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I'm not getting the results. And thinking that way about yourself can impact your self-esteem. It can impact, your emotions, the joy that you feel, or the sadness that you feel, or the disappointment that you feel. So it impacts how we're thinking about others as well. We know with burnout, sometimes there's that level of irritability, and that can, if we're coming at the persons around us in a sense of impatience and, why are you bothering me? And responding harshly and, with a temper to them, that's going to impact our relationships, which will also then impact how we are doing and how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So because burnout can so impact our thoughts and shift them in a very negative direction. It can impact our feelings and place them in the realm of sadness and disappointment and lack of joy, and then also impact our motivation to do. It certainly impacts our mental health, which is all about being well in our mind, our body, and our spirit, our actions, our feelings, and our thoughts.
Nice. Okay. So what about other people? Are other people impacted as a result of, because you talked about what it does to us. So what about other people? Are your families closely impacted as a result of this
Yes,
burnout?
yes. So definitely impacts other people. So for the coworker working with someone, you can imagine. And I think there's much work to do around supporting each other at work because burnout is not an individual issue. Oftentimes, it's a systemic issue. It's about the issues about how the workplace is structured. Sometimes it's about, the demands and the inflexibility of the workplace. So while yes, I'm going to say it can impact relationships within the workplace, I want to also really hold the light and advocate for
Mm-hmm.
us being intentional and real about creating workplaces that are supportive
Right.
because you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because this same workplace may have gone into creating what you're getting, the output you're now
Yeah.
getting from
Yeah.
worker or the worker.
I definitely like that.
Yeah. And in the parental relationship or the caregiving relationship, you know, that exhaustion, that feeling of I'm doing, and children will be children, and older parents will be older parents, sometimes much in their behavior, like, the toddlers, I'm not doing it. I don't want to bath. I don't want to bath right now. I'm not bathing, and when you're dealing with situations like this from a place of burnout and a lack of peace and a lack of joy, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to respond in a calm, understanding, yet
Yeah.
firm way in
Mm-hmm.
situations like that. What that relationship is now beginning to get is a lot of firmness and a lot of, you know, lack of compassion because, the depersonalization, the disconnection, it's hard then to access compassion and
Right.
empathy in those relationships. So, yeah, lead to frustration within our relationships, but also a damaging at times of those relationships and a need for repair.
All right. So leading up to that, now my next question would be, is burnout something that can be completely overcome, or is it something that has to be managed continuously?
So, speaking from experience as someone who is recovering from burnout, I would say, as well as from just the knowledge and the research,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we have to learn to manage. It's something that we
Okay.
have to learn to manage. And I say that because there's not much in life that we can ultimately control. And
Yeah.
there will,
Say that again. Say that again. There's some people on here that may need to catch that. Say that
it's
again.
hard, it's hard, but there's not much in life that we can ultimately control, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Um, so what it calls for is a way of being, overcoming burnout is then con con contradicting or kind of cutting off that state of exhaustion and, disconnection with another way of being, a way of being that prioritizes care of self so that you can then care better for others. So then that then must become an intentional part of your daily life. And I know people, when they hear self-care, they think spa, they think vacation or vacation or shopping spree, but that's not what I mean. That can be self-care. But when I speak of embracing and intentionally forming, and this takes time, a way of being that embraces self-care, what I'm speaking of is having those moments in your day where you connect with you. and something that brings you peace, something that brings you calm, something that brings you joy. So often we think we need an hour, for self-care, but part of the path of overcoming burnout, and as I said, it's not like I arrive and done. It's a daily
Mm-hmm. Continuous
process of
process.
renewing your mind, and some of the things that created or led to the burnout are patterns or habits, perfectionism, feelings of, that imposter syndrome. Like I don't really know it, even though the credentials on the wall say, this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you can do
Yeah.
this. But it's the feelings we carry around with us every day that can also contribute. It's the comparison, it's the looking at others, and hey, they did this way. I don't do it that way. Maybe their way is better. Maybe I need to do it like them. These are all things
Right.
that can also contribute to the sense of overwhelm and the sense of exhaustion. So, it's a renewing of your mind in terms of how you think about yourself, how you think about the world, how you
Mm-hmm.
think about the work that you do, so that, there's a deeper meaning, a deeper purpose, and there's a stability and confidence that, hey, I can do this, by the grace of God. I can do this with the help and support of my community. I can do this as I care for myself, with the help of
Right.
others, to care for the persons and the work that I am doing. Not a one and done.
I like that. So it's something you have to manage, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
And something that you have to begin to cultivate.
Mm,
I think we go to school, um, some of us continue schooling and we do professional training and we get the skills, we get the competencies. But I think what we all know, are encouraged to do is also to really dig deep into learning how to care for ourselves,
yeah.
what that looks like, you know, and asking ourselves that question, when's the last time I felt alive and, um, rested, but also productive and fulfilled? What was going on then? What was I doing? What did life look like? And then ask yourself, what does life look like right now? How
Right.
can I begin to cultivate
Hmm.
that state of being again?
All right. That's really good. So when would a person need professional help from you or professional help in general? What state of burnout that's like, okay, doc, I tried this, I tried third, I tried everything you said. What is a point where you would need professional help?
So when it comes to seeking professional help, one of the things I often recommend that people look to is your daily life. This is why, even as you asked the previous question, my response was around cultivating a day-to-day kind of life. So
Mm-hmm.
with the need to seek professional help is looking at your day-to-day life, um, is burnout and those symptoms that we talked about, the irritability, the demotivation, the sense of exhaustion, the sense of feelings of inadequacy, are they to the point that they're interfering with your relationships, your daily
Right.
life, your work? Are you finding it really hard to even, get out of bed, get to work on time, take care of your children, feed them, feed them well, you know? Has it reached the point where you feel kind of, thrown your hands in the air and just said, I can't be bothered, whatever?
Mm,
Is there a sense of hopelessness? Do you feel like, it doesn't matter what I do, it will not get better? Are there top thoughts of self-harm? And if
mm,
at any time there are any thoughts of self-harm, do reach out immediately to your medical professional. That's an accessible place. Call the emergency hotlines that are available. I'm not sure, people may be watching this from different places, but call the emergency hotline. There is help. And if you've tried the efforts, as you were saying, Felicia, you've tried, the self-care, the support of friends, the becoming more intentional about taking breaks in your day, working on your patterns of perhaps for perfectionism and comparison and such, and you're still finding I'm right here, then yeah, those are all signs that it's time to seek help. Or if there's anxiety or depression or other mental health issues beginning to emerge, reach out.
all right. Thank you so much, Doc. So, Doc, my next question for you is, what are the risks of ignoring these burnout symptoms? And then making an early intervention, what difference can that make?
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So I'll talk about the risk. Um, so your physical health, your physical health. As I said, I am, at the point where I am, recovering. I am working on building those day-to-day practices that we spoke a little of. And a few months ago, I had a host of things. I spent about 4 weeks, every week, I'm at the doctor, and they're running all of these tests and you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. What was going on at that time in my life? I was studying, I was caregiving, I was working, I was burnt out. I was burnt out. And the risk of ignoring burnout is, the risk of physical health problems, heart disease, high blood pressure, sleep troubles, weakened immune function, that repetitive cold that you can't seem to it goes away and a couple of weeks later it's back. These can be signs that maybe we really need to address this. The other thing is that, you know, your mental health can really be negatively impacted.
Mm,
So if we don't address it, it can lead to the development of more serious conditions. It can lead to perhaps depression, substance abuse, depending on how you're managing these
yeah.
feelings and this way of feeling exhausted, anxiety, and then your work performance and, just your activity can take a hit because you can imagine with the exhaustion you're feeling, with the brain fog, with the lack of motivation, your performance may be impacted. In some cases, that can jeopardize your career, or, maybe set your career back, jeopardize your job. So, and then there's relationship strain, the strain on your marriage, perhaps the strain on the parent-child relationship, because of your irritability, your withdrawal, lack of engagement. These can all be things that can also really harm and cause your relationships to be in a state of needing repair.
Like
So
even as
yes,
you shared that, I now understand why managing is key. Because if you can manage it and you can identify, which is why we started about identifying the symptoms. If you can see this thing, you can be like, okay, pause, pull back. What's your root
yes,
cause here? Let's fix this before it
yes,
escalates to that
yes.
to that point.
You know, there is no shame in asking for help and accepting help. And early intervention in many things is absolutely a life changer. So it can prevent the escalation of those issues that we just described. And it can also just help you to feel more joy in your life, more
Yeah.
peace,
I think everybody wants
enjoy.
that now more than ever.
Yes, more
Mm,
joy, like to smile and really feel the joy, to be able to go out and enjoy the beach if you're at the beach and not feel like here I am at the beach. Yeah, yeah, there's sand, woohoo, there's the
mm,
sea, woohoo, where you can move to a place where you can sit and you can absorb and be glad. Um, I follow a devotional called Jesus Calling. And one of my favorite devotions, I do it every year on repeat. And my favorite devotions is one that talks about living outside often and,
mm.
sunshine being the laughter of the soul.
Nice.
When we are feeling burnt out, it's hard sometimes to even let the sunshine in, let the laughter in. But if we can go ahead and begin to avail ourselves of the things we can do to feel better, then we we benefit tremendously in terms of being productive, being more kind to ourselves, being kinder to our loved ones, and just being able then to restore that sense of balance and well-being, which impacts work, home, and life generally, our health as well.
All right, so Doc, you shared so much vital information, but I cannot let you go without you sharing at least some practical tips or strategies that people can do to help deal with burnout. What would you suggest here? Give it a couple tips.
Okay. So first, I want to say that I'm going to share tips that may be individual tips, but what I want us to ground these tips in is the understanding that recovering from burnout is a community endeavor. It's not all on your shoulders. I believe healing happens in community. So one of the first things I would say is identify your support. Who is that one person, you can talk to, you can lay out on the floor and they, be there, reflect back to you what you've said without judgment, without harsh criticism, but with love, with compassion, with grace. Who is that person? If you cannot think of that person, again, I would direct you to seek professional help because that is part of what the professional relationship offers as well. And also know there are many different communities that you can become a part of online that are free, but that are sincere in efforts to really support members of that community. So that may also be an option. And community is important because one of the things about burnout is it's often this, the ones who are taking care of everybody else, getting the job done. These are the ones who are burning out. So there's a women empowerment coach that I follow, Jill Saron, and one of the things she says is we must check on the strong ones, because they're holding it together for everyone else, but who is
Yeah,
helping
very
them to
true.
hold it together? Yeah. So often we are arguing because we're lacking support. So one of the first things I would say is make peace with asking for help. My daughter, we say to her often, it's okay to ask for help. And now, of course, with children, what they do, they're always on the alert for opportunities when they can put back at you what you're feeding them with. So often she says no to me, she's like, Mommy, can I help you with that? I'm like, oh no, I got it. She's like, Mommy, it's okay to ask for help, And I think within our society, especially, parents and the high achieving professionals, it's important for all of us to recognize it's okay. Support is necessary. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then I would say the ABCs of self-care, just the basics. And people sometimes roll their eyes when you say things like, nourish your body with good food, um, move
Yeah,
your
'cause it can't be
body.
that simple. That's why.
Apparently not. No, no. But, I'm sorry, but I have to say these things are foundational to taking care of ourselves. And what I advise is not to climb Mount Everest in one swoop, but to really start small. So in terms of nourishing yourself, maybe start with a snack, a nourishing snack. What would that look like to add a nourishing snack to your day? And then once you get that, you can add a nourishing breakfast. What would a nourishing breakfast be? But really to bit by bit begin to increase the nutrients that you feed your body, because these things help us to feel better mentally and emotionally as well. And then movement. And, how do you like to move? Do you like to walk? Do you like to dance? Do you like to cycle? Do you like to swim? But how can we get a little movement? And again, start small. Start 5 minutes, increase to 10, increase to 15, because sometimes we want to start, 30 minutes. They say we must do 30 minutes of exercise every day. So I'm going to start with doing 30 minutes of exercise. And what happens? We get frustrated when we miss a day and, kind of give up.
Yeah,
So I think
very true.
overarching thing of all of these strategies that I'm recommending is start small, celebrate whatever progress you make, then add some more. I season that with a lot of grace and compassion because one of the things that contributes to the burnout is that thinking of, I must do it perfectly. That can certainly contribute to burnout. That we we need grace. We need to receive grace and we need to give grace, and that's okay. Um, the other thing would be boundaries. Now, for those of us who see caregiving as, a duty, a responsibility, sometimes it can be hard for us to set boundaries or for that person, who really enjoys their work and doesn't even feel like it's work. Boundaries can be hard, but boundaries are absolutely critical because it's the boundaries that stop the flood from coming your way. So I want us to think of boundaries as something that actually enables us to do what we're doing inside of, that space that the boundaries create with greater purpose, passion, and joy. Without boundaries, it means you're saying yes to everything that perhaps is not yours to say yes to. So with boundaries, it comes understanding and practicing in the mirror saying, I'm sorry, or just no. I can't. I'm I'm beginning to make peace with no being a sentence. Like,
That's
no,
hard for so many people. I know
I
so
can't.
many people that
It's hard to
struggle to say no.
just say
But
no. So
boundaries is, like you rightfully said, is so important for our mental health and to avoid the burnout. Because if you're
yes,
caring for, like you said, for toddlers or even for your parents, that in itself is a lot. And then if you're still a working
yes,
person, then you still have to care for you. So if you're saying yes, 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 yes,
yes.
yes, yes, yes to everything, how are you going to even have time for anything for you? So that's a very valid point
Yeah,
right
yeah. And one of the things we work on in therapy is sorting out our priorities through understanding our values. What is your value? What is it that you value? And come into a deeper sense of how these values connect with how you live your day-to-day life. And also looking more deeply and closely at your God-given purpose, so that you can begin to make decisions that align with the calling you have on your life, the purpose you feel you have. And when you're in a state of burnout, you don't even know your purpose, calling, values, but with time and with help, you can begin to, stabilize your core so that the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis are life-giving decisions and not the draining ones. Because
there.
yeah, another aspect of burnout that can contribute to it is this sense of misalignment between what I am doing and what I really value. So boundaries all wrapped up in your values, all wrapped up in, what it is that you are to be doing, what your role is. And for parents, sometimes the saying no is, counterculture, because our culture now is enroll our children in as many activities as we possibly can. And, you know, it might mean saying, okay, you're going to do two activities each week and beginning to train our children to care for us as well as we care for them. I say to my daughter often, you matter, have to do things to care for us so we can care for you better, right? So, really becoming deeply rooted in what is important in life. And for those of us who are caring for our parents, sometimes it means really getting honest with what is best for them. Because I think as we care for our older parents, sometimes there's this sense of, I must do it, I must do everything because they've done so much for me and I want to be there for them.
Yeah,
But
like a sense of
sometimes being
obligation.
there for them means allowing other, yeah, a sense of obligation. But the burnout's coming because you're doing too much. So sometimes it means just being honest, with yourself and saying and looking at what's best for the other. The other perhaps need not just you right now, but maybe they need assisted living. Maybe what would be best for them is if it can be afforded, for someone else, or maybe it's for somebody to come into the home and help you. So it's this looking at your life honestly, doing an assessment. I always say if you go to the doctor and it's one diagnosis, say chicken pox, you don't want to hear you have the cold because how you treat to them are completely different. So sometimes it requires sitting down with self, sitting down with Holy Spirit, sitting down with a trusted friend or a counselor, and really doing an evaluation of, where is my time going? Who am I giving to? What is it that I need? What is it that they need? What is it I am to be doing right now that is truly helpful to them, but also cares for me in the process? Yeah. And I would say look up. I was doing a workshop with some teachers recently around this issue of burnout. And, they were sharing what they do. And one teacher said, sometimes she just goes out and looks up at the sky. And just that act of looking up at the sky helps her to feel grounded. So with one of the things you can do is use your senses. Use what is it you're seeing around you that brings you joy? What can you place in your environment that you can look at that soothes you, that calms you? What can you smell? What can you do? I would say create a beat back burnout bag, feeling a kit where you
Hmm.
put some things in it that are nice and soothing and calming for you that you can reach for. Maybe it's a scent, maybe it's a magazine, maybe it's your Bible, maybe it's some favorite scriptures or a coloring book, but have that be back burnout kit there, that you can easily engage in things that you can use your senses, because what we know is using your senses brings you right into the present, and coming right into the present can be soothing in the present, when you can be able to say to yourself, in this very moment, I am safe. I am I am here, I am breathing. And that's the other thing I will say. We carry with us a resource that is absolutely phenomenal, that it can be easy to take for granted, and that is our breath. I had a professor who would always say, your breath is your friend. And we breathe every day, but we don't breathe correctly every day. So, I taught for a while, and whenever the children had an issue at lunch, then they would come in and they'd be heaving, they'd be like, teacher, he, blah, 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 or she. You can see their chest, like that. And while we may not have that exaggerated, often during our day, we are holding our breath, or we are breathing what we call chest breathing, which is shallow breaths. So a daily thing that we can do is, before you get out in the morning, breathe in through your nose, hold, breathe out through your mouth a few times. And what that begins to do is send a message to your nervous system that says, I'm safe, and it's okay to calm down. Yeah. So, and the breathing is something you can do any moment of the day. When you begin to feel yourself getting activated, deep breaths, and it literally sends the signal to your brain to calm your nervous system. So, I hope those are helpful. I really do want to impress upon us the importance of surrounding persons, and not making it feel like it's their responsibility to get over burnout. So for the family also to be looking to see, how can I support you, and for your workplace as well, because healing happens.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nicole. This is not our first and last conversation, because we just scratched one of many aspects of mental health, you know. But if persons do want to contact you, they can find you on Facebook and Instagram at SOAR Consulting for Facebook, and Instagram SOAR Consulting _246, guys. If you do need that personal help, or if you want to follow her for tips and tricks, definitely again follow her at SOAR Consulting on Facebook, SOAR, or for Instagram, SOAR Consulting _246. Dr. Nicole, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning. You share some enlightenment for me. But guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Comment below, guys, and let us know, are you dealing with burnout? Has this video helped you? Let us know. All right, guys, until next week. Bye-bye.